Welcome to the studio, ladies and gentlemen. So tonight I'm going to paint a little boat for you. I'm using my M-Gram Studio paints. Here they are. I'm going to put them off to the right side. Here's a picture of a little boat that I'm going to paint for you. It's a blue rowboat just set on the beach. Thought it made a nice little painting, a little picture there. I am mixing up a little bit of cerulean blue that I'm just dropping in for the sky. Jumped right in with this. Let me tell you what I'm using tonight in addition to the M-Gram paints that I'm using, and I'm going to let you know what colors I'm dropping on as I dip into those. I'm also using some Strathmore 400 paper. This paper came in a wire-bound notebook. That's gamboge that I'm dipping into, a little bit of yellow there. I let my cerulean run down just over the treetops. I'm going to put some gamboge on there. Together those are going to make a really nice light green. And I've got some trees that come out into the water. I'm going to do something very similar to that. I'm mixing in a little bit of yellow ochre right now, just to change the color of green that's going to be there when it mixes with the cerulean. So I'm using my Strathmore 400 paper. I'm also using a very small squirrel mop brush to do this painting with. It's a nice soft brush and it holds a lot of water. You can put down quite a bit of paint with it, yet it comes to a fairly fine point, and I like it because I can paint in a more loose style with these. I don't feel the need to paint quite so tightly, so I think they're going to help my paintings. But here we go, just painting the edge of that tree line. I guess I don't have to be quite as precise with this as I am, but I am. Okay, I just dipped into a little transparent orange oxide there. I'm sorry, a little transparent yellow oxide. There we go. And I'm drawing on a little bit of, the beach area in front of these trees. I should say that I'm, at this point, just putting down a base layer of paint. We're going to go back over top of this. We will let this dry, go back over top of it, and add more color over the top. So now I'm working down to the beach in the foreground, and in addition to that yellow ochre, I'm putting in a little bit of burnt umber and orange oxide just to warm that color up as it comes towards us. And there we go, just underneath the boat. All right, just filling in the space at this point. Like I said, this is just a rough a bit of color on here, something to get some color on the paper. We're going to be going over it with another layer. I just mixed in a little bit of red. It's going to help to further warm those colors up and bring that beach in the lower part of the painting way forward for us. All right, a little bit of ultramarine mixed with some of that cerulean. Going to put that in for our water and just dropping that in. Like I said, no particular way doing this, just getting that water in there somehow. We're going to be coming back over the top of this and doing a little bit more with it. So there's no need to do too much. And there we go, just adding, what's going to be a little bit of darker color and adding, or not adding, some highlights as the case may be. Okay, now for my boat color. It's basically cerulean blue with a little bit of turquoise added into it to punch the color up a little bit, maybe differentiate it from the sky just a little bit. And I put a little bit of water in there just to soften the lower edge of that. The railing of this boat I'm not going to paint. I'm going to leave it white. It's going to be in pure highlight. I'm just going in to get the entire inside of this boat. Right now I'm painting the back transom in front of the rear seat in this boat. And I'm trying not to put my fingers and my hands in the sand that I've painted. So making this color a little bit stronger. There we go. You can see that I've just painted around one seat in this boat. And there's the other. Just square that corner off. There we go. And I don't have to be super precise at this point. This is just the first layer of paint. We are going to be coming back and adding detail on the second layer. You will notice that I have painted just into the sand. Not a mistake. I'm going to have some nice shadow down there anyway, so it's okay to go ahead and just add the indications of that right now. And there it is. And I think I'm going to let this dry. Okay, I'm back. And my painting is totally dry now. What we're going to do is we're going to start adding some details to this. I'm going to mix up a little bit of green. Pretty blue green. And I'm going to use it for the trees in the furthest part of this painting, way back. We had made a little bit of yellowish green that's going to be underneath that. That will add a little bit of highlight to those trees and just give a nice base color to it. And I'm going to mix up a color that's just a little bit darker and a little bit bluer for the rocks underneath the base of these trees. Here we go. These trees are way back there. There's no need to really add any detail to these. They just need to be a green mass back there. Here we go. Getting into some Payne's gray. And that's a little alizarin crimson. It's going to make a nice color. There we go. For the rocks underneath, it's going to end up just being a dark point. It's going to hold that in shadow in the back. There we go. And I should say I've switched to a smaller brush at this point to get these little details in there. This is a number 2 brush. There we go. That's all we need to do with it. And we've magically made some faraway trees back there. I'm going to start putting in some trees in the mid values here. And again, mixing a green from the yellows I've had on my palette, which is mostly gamboge, and some yellow ochre, and throwing in some ultramarine or maybe just a touch of cerulean. Now I'm adding a little bit of red to warm it just a bit, because those trees are going to be coming closer to me. And as I look at my reference photo, the trees in the very foreground, or the very closest trees to me, have quite a bit of red in those. So I'm going to replicate that by putting a little bit more red in there and keeping this color very warm. This must be a fall day. The leaves have started to change. The colors have gone reds and oranges, and the bright greens of summer have basically melted away. Okay, before I do the foliage, the brush is just below those trees. I'm going to come back and put another coat of paint on my boat. Just really brighten this up. All I'm doing here, I don't need to be super careful, but I do need to make sure that the railing at the top of the boat stays a nice straight line. The rest of it below me, I don't have to worry about. I'm mixing up for my shadow burnt umber and the blue that I have going there, which is a cerulean again, and just a little bit of turquoise. And there we go. I'm going to let those run together and make a nice deep shadow underneath that boat. And now I'm going to put some on the top side. I'm going to do the same thing, just a little bit of blue in there. There it goes. Just doing enough to keep that top rail, I was going to say afloat, but maybe that's not the best word. But straight and white. I don't want to get in on that highlight any more than I have to. And sometimes my hand isn't the steadiest. I kind of get a bleed over in my painting anyways. But here we go. These are some dark shadows inside the boat. There we go. And we're really helping to define the shapes now. You can see that rear seat coming into form. There we go. And down to the bottom of the hull. You can see just adding a little bit of water, softening off that bottom edge, and defining the front seat. Again, I'm just using the blue here. Again, a little bit of turquoise, a little bit of cerulean, and I just put my finger, my palm in the painting. I didn't really want to do that, but here it is. Everything that's in deep shadow on this boat has now been painted. We're going to let that just kind of dry and lighten up a little bit. We're going to see what we need to do with the rest of that. There we go. Now, I'm going to mix up some more yellow ochre and a little bit of iron oxide. We're just going to give a little bit of texture to our beach here. Going to throw in some other colors. The beach isn't just one color. There we go. I'm not trying to do anything specific with this. The beach in the photo has sticks and stones and driftwood and all kinds of stuff on there. All I want to do by putting these lines and marks on there is to give it a little bit of texture, to add some interest for your eyes, and that's really about it. Okay, I've got a nice bright reddish mixture, and as I said, the foliage must have turned to a fall-ish color, because in the foreground many of the plants are reddish in hue. So I want to keep them nice and warm. So I'm having a greenish mixture with a lot of red in it to keep it warmed up. I know that sounds funny because green and red, you mix them together and you get either brown or gray. But in this instance, I'm trying to put in some red that's strong enough that will shine through that and give us a nice red tint to everything. Just mixing up a little bit of shadow color. I'm going to drop it right in the front of those. It's going to help to define it and give a little bit of texture to those trees. Not trying to do anything really specific. Just a few dots, a few lines here and there. Okay, it's time to add even more interest to our beach. I'm just going to drop some weeds in here. There we go, and this is just my green mixture. And where I need to, I think a little red. It really doesn't matter what color it is. I just need to get it in there and blend it in, give it its own little hillock that it's sitting on. There we go. You can put a mixture of reds or greens. You can do however you want to do this. Adding a little bit more detail behind the boat. Trying not to add it on the boat. There we go. Just a few more sprigs and twigs here and there. We are almost done with this one. Just dropping in a few little bit more details, dragging the brush across the sandy area. All right, the last thing we need to do is we can't leave our water as a big flat lake. Well, we could leave it as a big flat lake, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to add some dark lines to it. Make it look like there's a wave or two out there. Maybe just a little whiff of wind causing that. And not everything in that water, I guess, is blue. I just put in some of that greenish color. It's just going to add more depth and more detail to it. Okay, I'm looking at this boat and I think maybe it needs a little something here. Maybe our shadow isn't quite dark enough. I'm just going to go back in and darken that up a little bit more. It doesn't need to be too dark, but maybe just a little bit punched up here and there. And then, of course, a few stray lines on this boat to give it some interest. It looks to me like it's an aluminum boat, and it must have some rivets in there. It must have a few seam lines in there. I'm just going to drop those in wherever. It's going to add to the boat quite a bit, even though they're simple little lines that we're dropping in. And that is about all there is to it. I think if I can find a pen, I will sign this, or a pencil. Maybe a pen. There we go, we've got a pen, and it looks like it actually works. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this little boat. I had a great time painting it with you. There's the original, there's what I came up with. Thanks so much for stopping by the studio. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.